Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm afraid you're not going to probably like the way this is going, but I think it's important. I would love to sign on to this resolution with an opportunity to address my concerns instead of seeing this resolution late last night. Perhaps I could. One, it violates the primacy of verbiage, which we are told we must adhere. We don't say disabled Americans because Americans with disabilities. We say Americans with disabilities to focus on their humanity first. Here, the focus is on a reference to phenotype, which is a minor physical characteristic. Unlike the consensus non-science of Darwin's theory, which considers a race to be a primary characteristic, with darker skin being indicative of a lower level of evolution. It's non-science, 100%. But it's taught in our schools and celebrated by many in this room. Also, not all Black Americans are of African descent, and I have friends who feel that their heritage is erased and subsumed by a myopic narrative. This resolution puts slavery rightly in a pejorative context. But on 3 separate occasions last session, the same caucus voted to use money extracted by force from Colorado taxpayers to support child slavery and environmental degradation of third world countries to support green energy. It's difficult to stand against slavery with someone standing for it. Even the majority party's insistence on being a sanctuary for trafficking immigrants unprotected by documentation, turning them into a perpetually vulnerable slave class, exploitable.
Representative DeGraaf.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to pause us for a moment and ask you to return to the content of the resolution, which speaks about Black History Month.
Yes, ma'am. There's a lot of history.
The votes that have been taken by members of this body are not reflected in this resolution, and your conclusions are not welcome at this time as you speak. I ask you to please focus on the content of the resolution.
The content of the resolution is history. So let me skip ahead. Thank you. I do agree that the history of all Americans, regardless of phenotype, be interwoven because partial history is not correct history, and you cannot learn valid lessons from false history. But our children are forced to endure projects like the 1619 Project because it values narrative over fact. We could, or should, talk about how the first owner of a chattel slave was a free man of African descent, or how the blood and treasure of Britain and the United States, trillions in today's dollars, went into fighting the slave trade that was promulgated by African American and Arabian empires who had based their economies
Representative
on capturing.
DeGraaf, I'm going to put us in a brief recess. Thank you. The House will stand in recess.